Hello everybody. Today we are going to look at a type relationships in object-oriented programming. So there are various types of relationships that are mentioned in as part of object-oriented programming. Today we are going to see that among those are association, aggregation, and composition. These are the various types of relationships that we normally see in object-oriented programming. Let us look at what are these. Okay. Object-oriented programming primarily consists of objects. Sorry, primarily consists of objects which are a representation, which represent a type, class. Okay. Now, in this representation, a class could be considered as a type of a real world object. Basically, whatever various types that we observe in the real world objects, it could be a human being, it could be an automobile, it could be a pen, or it could be a pencil, or it could be a book. Okay, all these are represented by classes in object oriented programming, and those types, the objects which are associated those particular classes or types, are represented in objects. So everything is more or less objects. So how, since everything is dependent on these objects, okay, we need to see how their relationship is defined in object oriented programming. Okay, in object oriented programming there are two types of relationships: is a relationship, okay, has a relationship. Okay, now what is the difference between an is a relationship and has a relationship? Okay, so now, okay, is a relationship is primarily about one object is of is of type another. Okay, now a simple example of this is a book is a stationery. A book is nothing but a stationary item, right? Similarly, a pen is a stationery, right? So these are the various items. These are the uh, various representations that we can give for is a relationship. Whereas when it comes to has a relationship, okay, has a relationship says a book has pages. Okay, is a relationship says a book is a stationery. Has a relationship says a book has pages. Okay, so and so book has a relationship represents a particular object type which is part of another object type. So that is the relation, that is the difference between is and has a relationship. Now, while representing this in in Java, okay, okay, we have quite a few uh, ways to represent it. Okay, now if we see in Java, we represent is a relationship in inheritance by following inheritance, okay, and inheritance through, okay, or through class or interface, okay. We can achieve it by using inheritance, either by inheriting a class or implementing an interface. Similarly, if we look at the has a relationship since it contains, okay, so we represent it by using, okay, a class in another class. When I say a class in another class, an object of the type of that type in another class. That's how we represent a has a relationship, okay. Now these is a and has a relationships, okay, can be further represented, okay, or broadly categorized into three types, like what we discussed earlier, right? Sorry, association, aggregation, and composition, okay. Now association, as discussed, is a relationship. Aggregation is a special type of relation association relationship, is a special type of relationship between two classes, but this is achieved using has a relationship, using has a, okay, by following has a, sorry, not using. And similarly for composition, composition is a further special type of aggregation which also follows has a. Now you might ask me, what is the difference between aggregation and composition, and why do we need two separate terms when both of them follow the same has a relationship? Okay, there is a small distinction between these two. Aggregation, we say, has a weak, is a weak relationship. Whereas coming to composition, we say it's a strong relationship. Okay, so aggregation is a aggregation is has a relation, weak has a relationship. Composition is a strong has a relationship. Okay, so we will see how this work in terms of the code. Okay, so if we look at this, okay, now let us say we have a very class, mm, class animal, or more interface animal, okay. And its attribute is it returns type of movement, okay. Now if we see here, we are representing a typed animal, okay, and we are going to create a class mammal, okay, class reptile, okay. So means animal, okay. Similarly in here, okay. So if we see here, how does the animal move, okay, sorry, how does a mammal move? Let us say it walks, a broad generalization, okay, walks. Similarly, how does a reptile move? it crawls. This is the broad generalization I am coming up with, but it need not be an exact representation. Okay. Now, okay. Mm, okay. Now, if we see here, we are going to create two. We already created a classes. Okay. Now, if you see here, a mammal is an animal. Similarly, a reptile is an animal. Now, if you can see, we have used an easy relationship in here, right? Now, okay. Okay. Similarly, and then reptile equal to new reptile. Okay. Now, okay. Similarly, if you see here, reptile. Now, let us run this. So, if you see here, a mammal walks and a reptile crawls. Okay. If you see, both are of type animals, but each of them have different types of movements, which is specified by overriding that method in the mammal. So this is a is a relationship. Now let us speak about has a relationship. Okay. Now, okay, has a relationship. Hmm. Okay. Now here we are seeing that there are two classes, a house and a resident, right? So, or if we change it to people as well, right? Okay. Now, if we see here, when we try to create a type of class house, okay, house equal to new list, okay, and house dot add dot distance dot add of new people. Now if you see here in this representation, okay, we have a house which can have residents are people in here in this case. Now this is an association relationship. Okay, now how it is an association relationship and how it is a weak relationship, because if you look at the house, a house can be used either for people to live in it, or it can be used as a store go down for storage. Okay, or it could be just held as an just another exhibition or whatsoever. A house could be used in any ways, many ways. So in that way, house need not be filled with only people, it could be filled with goods as well. So if we replace the house with goods, okay, then house stays as is, and it doesn't, its existence doesn't come into question. Similarly, if we look at the people, okay, various people that are currently being placed in this house, okay, even though if the house doesn't exist, these people can stay somewhere else, right? So they need not they can go to another house, or they can stay wherever they want, right? And they and people, these type of objects of these type also doesn't come into question. So in this way, if you see, house and people are associated with one another, right? So these can reside anywhere. Okay, and these objects could be used in any other place. For example, employee can be associated, can be employee is a people or is a person. Okay, then accordingly these people could be used as an employee somewhere else. So in that way, house and people, okay, these two object types can exist even without any relationship between them. Okay, and as it has a relationship, if we see, a house contains people in the form of residents. So one object type is included in has a relationship into house. Okay, so if we see here, okay, start residents dot string. Okay, now if we run this, you can see that this house of residents were looped through to show that to display the show method, which is I am a resident, right? So in this way, house and people are not strongly related to each other, and they can exist even without this relationship. So this is an aggregation, okay, which is a weak relationship. Okay. Mm, okay, and let us look at composition. Okay, composition. In composition, let us go a little deep. Okay, now let us say, hmm, uh, or human, sorry, human human being class. Okay, human being. Okay, and a human being contains a human being has, mm, let us say, brain, class brain. Okay, now when we create this, public human being is, Okay, now in this one, okay, okay. Now, if you see this relationship, I'm sorry, I represented it in a different way, as an as an internal class. Okay. Now, if we see here, a human being, we the human beings, okay, can have a lot of body parts. So the main reason for picking a brain, because so far brain transplantation is something that is not yet achieved for now. So that's why I can for now objectively say that human beings contain brain and it cannot be replaced, at least for now. So I wanted to go with this. So if a human being should exist, okay, then they need a brain. Okay, and without the brain a human being cannot survive, right? And similarly, if a brain has to survive, and it should be in a human being, and it cannot be replaced as a single simple object, it cannot be moved out of the human brain too, and then the brain as is will be dead, and it could not be used in any way possible. So in this way, a human being and a brain are strongly related between the two. Okay, one cannot live without the other. Okay, so this is a strong relationship between the two. Okay, it could even be mentioned that brain could be placed outside, and and if human being is not present, uh, brain doesn't has any value, or it doesn't survive, or it doesn't exist, right? So this representation just shows that a strong relationship between the two. Okay, so composition drives this. So if you see here, a human being has a property of type brain. Okay, which is in human being, and it cannot be exposed to the external world as well. It is abstracted out. Okay, and if we can see, it doesn't exist other than within the boundaries of the human being, right? So this is the strong relationship that we see. Now if you look at the code, okay, okay, so let us run this. Oh, sorry, my bad. Okay, so if you can see, what does a brain do? It thinks, right? So if you see here, these are the three forms of relationship, I would say: association, aggregation, and composition. Composition, association is a normal relationship that could be achieved by inheritance, as we have seen in the case of animal. Okay, and here we have used an interface for this inheritance representation. Similarly, we can use it for class as well. And if we look at aggregation, aggregation is a special case of association, wherein rather than going with an easy relationship, here we represent the relationship between the classes as has a relationship. So if we see here, there is a house, and a house contains people. Now there isn't, it is represented as a weak relationship, wherein the people can exist even without a house, and a house can stand still even without people. Okay, so here it is a weak relationship. And similarly, if we look at the composition, composition is a further special case of aggregation, wherein uh, the objects that are involved cannot exist without one another, or if we can say the child object cannot exist without the parent object. So okay, so the human being, that the brain class cannot survive or exist without a human being, right? Now, so this is in the human being case. It could be in the animals case as well, because animals also have a brain. So it's a broad representation we can see in this way. Okay, so so in this way we have association, aggregation, composition, provide where association is a easier relationship, aggregation is a weak has a relationship, and composition is a strong has a relationship. Now, among these, which one should be used in which scenario? In general, we not in a general case, most of the time we go with an association relationship, is a relationship. However, in is a relationship, there are two approaches that we can take. One is the through the interface, and the other one through the class. But if we take and relationship through the interface, okay, it gives much more flexibility than when it comes to the class, because in Java we can only extend one class, whereas whereas for interfaces we can implement any number of interfaces. So in that way, in implementing easier relationship through interfaces gives more flexibility. Okay, and but it is still it is still restricting, because when we represent an easy relationship, we have to stick to that, and we cannot mix and match and move wherever we want, right? Wherever we want, we cannot implement a few things, and that will be and if at all we forcefully go and do it, even though if we give a default or wide implementations, it is more kind of an anti-pattern that will be followed in easy relationship. Okay, so it should be followed judiciously when we are picking the association relationship. When it comes to the aggregation relationship, aggregation is a weak relationship. This is achieved by has a relationship, which gives much more flexibility when it comes to the implementation, primarily because we will get a chance to implement it wherever we want to, right? For example, if we want to have multiple child classes, objects of type child classes, to be included into one parent class, then that could be achieved through aggregation. Okay, and even in this aggregation, if at all we sometimes they might that those child classes, objects of those child classes need not exist in such a scenario, in such a weak relationship, we use an aggregation relationship. Okay, similar. And if we are looking for a strong relationship, okay, then we will go mostly for composition. Okay, so if we look at these three types of relationships, okay, in majority of the cases, it is always advised to go with has a relationship, because it gives much more flexibility and free hand. Okay, however, if we are going for association, okay, is a relationship, because the requirement demands, in such a case we should mostly go towards interfaces rather than classes and abstract classes, and it is a case by case basis where we need to pick and choose and match them. Okay, so this is about the objects and their relationship types that are possible in Java. Okay, in object oriented programming in Java. So yeah, so this is it regarding this. So if anyone has any questions, or anyone has anything to contribute, please share it in the comments section. And if at all you are interested in listening about any specific topics, please mention it in the comments section, so that it will be easy for me to pick and do some research and make a tutorial or recording about those topics. Okay, thank you